Hey everybody, we are about to start the session in just about 10 minutes, something like that. This is Jose Blasco. If you hear my voice, it would be great if you could say a quick hi or a quick yes on the chat box, so that way I know that you are properly connected and you hear the voice and everything is fine. Thank you guys. Hey everybody. This is Jose Blasco here. We're about to start in just a few minutes. I just wanted to have a quick sound check just to double check that the sound is working well and everything is fine. It would be great if in the chat box you could just type a quick hi, a quick yes, something like that, just for me to know that you hear my voice and we are ready to begin. We'll start in just a few minutes. Thank you guys. Hello, everybody. We just got to the final part of the countdown, so I am switching now the set of slides that we're going to use for the beginning part of the session. Could you please, with a quick hi in the chat box, help me realize and understand that you hear my voice? Something like that in the chat box, so I know. I see that you hear me. So let's begin our session. Let's get organized. Let's begin with a disclaimer slide first, and from there we will begin today. Okay. So very quickly, here we go. Welcome to the session today. We're gonna be talking about AutoUFOs, December 19, 2018. Disclaimer: the following video, educational and instructional purposes only. Traditive provides these videos purely for the purpose of demonstrating a method or of using the product. Users understand in the video demonstration purposes only and is not a guide and does not provide any indication or prediction of actual results. As a user, you understand and agree that hypothetical results obtained through the demonstration to using. Here we go. So we got the disclaimer out of the way, and I am going to share now a different screen. I'm going to be sharing the web page. Second here, I need to get it up first. Here we go. So you should be seeing a web page which I'm sure is up on your side. As we begin the session, we get this. So that's why I like to start the session with this little reminder. Many people send us email asking us, so how do I get access to? Need to download the app from the TradeStation Trading. How do you connect with the TradeStation Trading App Store? Well, you just need to, type the URL for you to do it yourself. Here we go. You should be able to see now on. Okay. Now, notice how interesting in this session that we are doing right before Christmas, that in the App Store, they have added also the showcase AutoUFOs. AutoUFOs with Jose Blasco. We did this session together with TradeStation. It took a while for them to be able to upload it and have it available for the public, but it seems it's already done. Okay, so we will our YouTube channel, you have it out there as well, but you can always come in here about store on the TradeStation App Store to be able to access this information. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is how to get access to the app. So here on the top, there is this search box. So you would just want to type AutoUFOs, click on the green button for the search. And the moment you would do that, it will bring you to the AutoUFOs page. Okay, so simple as a user, as a customer of TradeStation, a button, depending if you want to, because you haven't tried it yet, and you can do that for free, as you can see, or if you're already ready to use the app more seriously, if you wish, you would just subscribe to it, and TradeStation will take care of charging you those $89 per month. Okay. Now, what else? Second question before we begin the session: the user guide. Okay, the user guide. www.tradewithufos.com. So I'm going to have this on the stream as well. website. It's our website. There is a collection of things, examples, trade examples, but also I would like to point at the guide. It is critical as you utilize the AutoUFOs app. It is critical that you understand how to use it. So that's why we do these get-together sessions, so we can look at different applications, different ways on how to use it, etc., etc. But while we do those sessions together, it will be very useful for you to get into this guide section, to this initial blue area on the web. You can download the TradeStation user guides for TradeStation 9.5 if reading manual for you. So a collection of YouTube videos, if you watch them all, is about where some of those videos will be on calibrating components and settings, making sure your TradeStation is ready. Initial settings that you need to do that once, if you wish, before you start using the app. But it's important for you to be aware of avoid misusage of the app. It would be important for you to spend. Guys, before we begin, it's our Facebook page, which is let me copy it in the stream as well. It's www.facebook.com/tradewithufos, but let me have it on the stream for you. This Facebook page is going to be very useful for you because of multiple reasons. One of the reasons is because, it's going to be quite useful to be connected in a very dynamic manner. And obviously, social media does this very well, but also because users of our app are constantly sharing trade examples that you can look at. There is a trade with a specific currency. That was Forex. If I keep going lower, or actually I should have clicked on posts. Sorry for that. So click on posts, and then you have the whole collection of posts on the web page. Okay. Okay, it's loading now. Well, okay, I know what's happening because we are streaming this session live on Facebook. So I guess. Since I'm doing the whole thing with the same computer, I guess Facebook is thinking a lot. So as you can see, we got multiple Forex. The next one was Johnson & Johnson, an equity. Are there, and that could be very useful for you to observe because it would give you ideas on how to use the app, but also may also help you on understanding better things that you could be doing or things that other users are doing that could be important or useful to you, things that you may have not thought about yet. A great way to add this to your trading methodologies is maybe looking at what other users are doing. Okay, so now I'm going to be inside. We're going to be able to begin the session normally and go over the plan for today. But again, it was important for me to rephrase little all in the same page as we do all of this together. Okay, so how are you guys? Before we begin, how are you? The markets have been moving intensively, really, and more than ever, tools that allow you to not to miss opportunities that are happening quickly tools like AutoUFOs in this case, which we are discovering together, it's could make a big difference in your trading. Okay, but how is it going so far? How did the week go, guys? It would be great if you could share with me a little bit on how is your trading life going out there, and I'll keep your answers for myself, just to understand a little bit where you're at, the good things and the not so good things that may have happened to you in the week, because obviously trading, it's it's all about taking profits professionally, but also taking losses professionally, and therefore it would be good for me as the moderator of the session to understand where you are, what was your experience in times, so that way I understand better how to support you, add certain maybe exercises, homework, ideas that we could explore all together to help you in your journey wherever you are at. Okay, so very good. Yes, totally. I'm reading your message, but would you mind to share which market are you looking at? So I would be definitely glad to go take a look. But you told me the time frame, but you didn't say which market, so it would be good to know the market. Okay. But anyway, as I wait for that answer, let's rephrase a little bit and things that we have said in the last session. So we begin in a very organized fashion today. Okay, so last time, out of some of your comments that I received in the chat box, as we questions together with emails that you have sent from time to time, I concluded that you needed a little bit of help in getting to a point where you have a little more structure on how you trade. And I was calling this a trade plan. I was calling these rules. It seemed to me that many of you that are joining us in the session, may not be the case for everybody, but many of us, in the sense that, you have been trying these, looks like in the present times, to some of you, it's more kind of experimental in the sense that you're still in this discovery process. And the problem of doing that, in one hand, it's definitely needed. It's out of learning, it's out of satisfying something human, which is called curiosity. But at the same time, in order for you to produce consistent results, the only way to do that is to have consistent action. And obviously, experimentation is the complete opposite of consistent action. It's actually random action because you are experimenting, right? So the idea, out of this, if you wish, particular problem that I have identified interacting with you in recent times, and again, this may not apply to everybody, but to some of you, I came up with this idea. Well, maybe it would be useful, and that's what we said last time. It would be useful that you guys send emails to us with some of the things that you have identified that you like or you don't like, or things that to you are important to check, or you are not sure if it's important to check. And, so basically by adding all that information, we would do a collection of sessions together, little by little, where I would help into surrounding your AutoUFOs with a series of conditions or rules or context or environment conditions in the marketplace for you to be able to execute trades, and translate all of this in the form of rules in a way where now you make your decision-making process to be the most mechanical as possible. Because, of course, one way on how you could trade, certainly, it's go ahead and the only thing you do is to use the AutoUFOs, and that's it. Okay, but we also talked about that in the past. The problem that you may have if you do that is that you may end up with too many trades. Okay, you may end up with too many trades because really there are many UFOs in the chart, and there may be too many. And if a market is changing direction, or that particular day the market is more erratic than normal, which all those things will happen. Well, in that particular day, you may end up with 5 wins in a row, but you may also end up with 5 losses in a row. And this could impact your psychology and basically just stop trading for the week, stop trading for the month, getting into scenarios where you basically the problem is that you took too many trades in a short period of time, and then the human component kicks in, the mindset kicks in, you get disappointed, you get emotional, you get whatever, and next thing you know, you stop trading or you start over trading to kind of like make the money back in revenge mode, and all those things would be problematic. So one way to, if you were to have a very strong mindset and you were to be a very experienced trader, you could certainly use the UFOs on their own. That would be obviously your decision. But what many traders would do to kind of filter out all those flying saucers on the chart and only focus on a few, so you execute less trades and you attempt that those few trades that you would take would be of a higher probability, is to surround those auto UFOs with a collection of extra rules to make your trading a little more in the picky side, to be a little more selective, where you focus on the highest quality as possible given that collection of rules. Okay, so that would be the, if you wish, the main subject for today's session, to go ahead and start discussing some of the things that you have sent to us, so we can start addressing it, and little by little make comments, give yeses or nos to certain things, or give alternative views on how to do other things in a way where little by little you guys can construct your own plan. Okay, so that's the goal, that's the idea. And this is something that we need to do all together. Okay, obviously I will be the lead, I will be the guide, but I cannot do that without you guys, because in the end, I am doing this for you, meaning that those additional rules that we want to add, we need to discuss them together, because it's not about, I'm going to use a strong word here, if that's okay. It's not about dictatorship in the sense that I give you rules and you have to follow the rules. It's about making the methodology compatible with your mindset, given the fact that some of you may be more experienced or less, some of you may be more risk averse or less, some of you may want to trade more often or less, and everybody's different. So we need to work on this together. You need to share with me what you are attempting to do in your trading life. So little by little, we'll put all those rules together and come up with something concrete for you. So you can take your trading results to the next level. Okay, that's the idea. So quick confirmation message here on the chat box, guys. Could you please confirm on the chat box that you are with me on what I just said, and you're well aware of what we're going to be doing, and everybody's ready to collaborate and put together this teamwork that I'm talking about, okay? Because there have been sessions in the past where you have been collaborating fantastically, and there have been some sessions in the past where maybe I've been a little more concrete, specific, or I would even say a little more demanding on my questions. And sometimes I have felt that, some of you were a little bit in the shy side, and there is no reason to be in the shy side. In my mind, we're spending some time together in those sessions, and the ultimate goal is to have those sessions to be productive and to help you. As I said, I cannot do that without you. So this is teamwork, and I did you fully engage. Okay, so can I count on you guys? Can I see a yes on the chat box here? Can I count on you? And again, I'm going to keep those answers private, so I will only share the relevant text. And in this case, I'm asking you to type it so I can see it, but I will not share it on the main screen. Okay, so give me a yes to show me your engagement, guys. Okay, in the meantime, as I'm waiting for those, one of the users suggesting to look at the 5-minute time frame area. I guess is this one here. Well, I guess you typed that information a little bit. Is it that one? I could have been a little quicker in jumping into this chart. But anyway, yeah. So let me ask you this question: Where is your target in this one? Because definitely you have identified a proper zone and beautiful bounce out of the area. This is already like more than a 3-to-1 in 10-15 minutes. That's looking good. But it would be good to know as well, how are you managing this trade when it comes to taking profits? Would you mind to share with us your target, your plan for the target? Okay, I'll be waiting for that, and yeah, it'll be good to discuss. Okay, but anyway, while I'm waiting for that, so let me get on the stream as well. The first question from one of you guys. Okay, so I'm just going to be copying and pasting little by little. I'm getting text from emails that you guys have been sending. So here is the first one. I'm going to show on the stream, and I'm going to keep the name of the trader in this case. I'm going to keep it anonymous, okay, based on a request here, okay. So, but if it's you, you know it's you. And so her question was, of course, the plan system must be mechanical, alien trading, as one can read about how Ed Sequoia, etc. trades. Okay, so yeah, so basically that was more than a question, really was a comment, but it's a good one. So I decided to share with the group as well, because obviously, you know, trading, it's all about being mechanical. I said it very clearly before. Let me repeat myself. Trading, it's all about producing consistent action to have consistent results. If the action is random, the results are random. So to have consistent results, the action has to be consistent. How do we do that? We need to have a collection of rules that we follow with discipline. Therefore, we act mechanically. Okay, so now in this mechanical approach, the trader was talking about alien trading, right? And again, probably using the same joke I use myself at times when I talk about removing the human components, and instead of trading like a human, trading like an alien. And in this case, kind of using a little humor and playing with the words, because our app is called AutoUFOs, and of course you have the UFOs and you know, so we trade with the UFOs, so we are the alien, isn't it? So that's important, because we are having two comments here, and that's why I'm bringing this text to the group. Two comments. Comment number one being mechanical. Comment number two being an alien, in the sense that we are removing the human component, the emotional part of our mindset. We need to remove that out of the equation. Okay. How do we do that? What's the best way to do that? Technology. Any sort of technology. Of course, you know, our protagonist here in this session is the AutoUFOs app, which is a piece of technology, but it doesn't only apply to that. For example, when you execute, when are you going to be a better trader? When you execute everything manually, you do your entry manually, and then you wait manually to stop yourself out and you take profits manually? Or would you be better off using some sort of automation within your trading platform, where you place, you know, bracket orders with entry stop target all together, things like that, you know? So when would you be a better trader? When you execute manually, or when you have your trading platform to execute for you, right? So I think the answer is obvious. Okay, we don't even need to answer that question. It's obvious. So again, this concept of trading like an alien sounds funny, but actually is very serious. Okay. We have the answer when it comes to where to take profits on this trade with the S&P futures. So Tolly said already out 50%, correct. Yeah, now I'm reading this wrongly. So already out 50% at 1-to-1, and you're trailing stop under the new zones that are forming. Okay, very good. Got it. 100% understand. And it makes sense, because in this case, to be honest, UFO, which could be your target, is located all the way up there, 25.93, which if you bought at 25.33 and you're gonna take profits at 25.93, we're talking about 60 points, which is an incredible trade. And by the way, it could happen. It could happen because we don't have on-field orders in between, but at the same time, because the distance is very, very great, it may happen at times that institutions enter, big players in the marketplace enter, and they start producing new trades somewhere in the middle, creating new UFOs somewhere in the middle. So your technique on now that you are in the risk-free trades, just keep trailing stop, makes a lot of sense to me in a scenario like this one. Okay, so good job, and thanks for sharing. It helps very much the group. Okay, so thanks for that very much, and this applies to everybody as well. Okay, if you guys are in a trade as we are conducting this session, or you are planning any trade as well, or you have taken any trade in recent times with the UFOs, just feel free to share as well, and we can talk about it. Okay, but anyway, let me go ahead and get comment number 2, which this one is gonna is gonna use some of our time together to discuss, because that's a very, 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 very important concept. Let me show that in stream. Let me show that in the stream. The user said, that we have now, it's multiple time frames. Can apply, include the volume tick charts. It doesn't matter what type of chart we use, dailies, weeklies, minute charts, second charts. It doesn't matter what we use. We can certainly use UFOs on any type of chart. But the question here is more about how to combine the UFOs and the use. If we dive deep into the subject, we could easily spend the whole remaining part of today's session, because it's a very, very, very important concept. So let's do this all together. Okay, again, we're doing a little bit of teamwork here. Okay, and therefore I would like to get your take on that. Okay, so what about you guys type? Well, I'm gonna take another question before I come back to this answer. What about you type on the chat box? How do you use the time frames, or what is it important for you when it comes to using different time frames, or how many time frames you use when you plan a trade, or do you use one time frame only? How do you approach it? Okay, another thing I would be curious to hear from you, so we can discuss all together as well, is when you use multiple time frames, do you start planning your trades using the larger time frame first and drop down to the lower time frame, or do you start from the lower time frame and go back up to the larger time frame? So do you use more like a top-down approach, or you use more a down-up approach? How do you kind of approach it? Okay, so go ahead please and type it, and I will be grabbing all that information and analyzing it little by little as we go all together. Okay, instead of just giving you my version of the story, I can analyze this much better all together. Okay, so please type it in there. Okay. Mark, I am also reading your messages here. I have your email for sure. Okay, and I will be going over your questions one at a time. Believe me, I will not miss any of it, but I am just going over questions in the sequence in which I have received the emails. Okay, and so I started with the oldest emails that some of them were sent to me on the very same day that we did the session last Wednesday. Okay, so just be patient with me there if that's okay, and for sure we'll get there. Okay, very good. Very, very good. Wonderful. Perfect. Yes, and I see your comments there in the chat box as well, Mark. Okay, cool. So, guys, you guys seem to be still typing some of your answers. Okay, so I will give you a little bit more time But let's talk about the time frames. Okay, let me, if that's okay, as you guys are typing, let me give you a little bit of my view on the time frames and how to use UFOs to be able to do that. Okay. Very good. So, guys, first of all, we can talk about many things that are all related here, because in the end, trading, at least if we talk about trading directionally, Mark was talking about an iron condor a second ago, so that is trading non-directionally, which is certainly something that we need to discuss as well. Okay, but if that's okay, let's talk about trading directionally. Okay, and so trading directionally means to catch a move, and it's not enough to catch a move. The move needs to be great enough to give us a decent profit, and it needs to be decent by comparison when you compare the profit with the amount of money you would lose if you were to lose. And that needs to make the trade to justify itself in a way where the trade stands on its own. This is, among, I would say, all traders around the world. Different stories that traders follow those rules or not based on their discipline, but knowledge around the world, you can even read this in books, even if you never took a trading course. Knowledge around the world is that traders need to make decent amount of money when they profit, and when they lose, it needs to be kept as small losses and never big losses. Okay, I think that's common knowledge. Okay, so trading is all about catching moves in those conditions and finding this balance. Therefore, to be honest, if that's okay for me to express myself quite directly, I would just go ahead and say, who cares about the time frame that you trade? All time frames would be a valid time frame for you to execute whatever trade you plan. Why? Because in the end, it's about catching a move, and as long as the move justifies itself based on the probability, on the risk, and the reward, then you just execute the trade, and that's it. So you could spend the whole day looking at all time frames in one hand, and anytime you see a valid trade, execute the trade, no matter the time frame. You could certainly do that. In the other hand, I would say that even though what I said is true, that would not be 100% practical, because the only way to do that is that you spend the whole day in front of your computer, and also that you have no preferences on how to trade, where normally human beings, we kind of develop preferences. I met many traders throughout my trading career where some had showed a very strong belief that they were very comfortable taking trades that would last a few days and maybe holding trades over the weekend, where then I met traders that were just as experienced or as good, and they have shown a very strong belief that proved that they will never hold trades during multiple days, and even less over the weekend. So who is right and who is wrong? So this is when the human component shows up, and there is no right or wrong. Of course, as you gain experience and you understand better what's possible in trading, you may end up performing multiple styles of trading: the long-term trades, the short-term trades, the intermediate-term trades, and you end up opening doors to things that you were not comfortable at first, and now you are comfortable after maybe 2 or 3 years of trading, because you have grown as a professional, and therefore confidence, and therefore now you are able to do things that you were not able to do at first. But no matter where you are at, in the end, there is still this human component that will. And preferences are important for us to understand about ourselves as traders, because you need to have a good level of confidence when you execute. And there's no way to be confident if you are totally uncomfortable. So, this would be, to me, one of the most important variables that will help you set or identify the timeframes that you should trade. If you recall, a few weeks ago, one of the members of our get-together session said is that he was very challenged with time to trade, because he had a pretty demanding job, and that job was consuming a lot of his time, and then he would have no time to plan or execute trades. And I remember throwing out there the informal suggestion where I said that, well, maybe a good time frame for you to use would be the 4-hour time frame. Why? Because it's quite slow, but not so slow. Why? Because that particular user, you could that person could not wait to produce results, but the same time, the 4-hour time, don't trade the 5-minute or a 3-minute time frame, because it would be very frustrating to miss so many trades because you didn't have time to trade, and that was the decision. Okay, so let me pause there and rewind. So first of all, I was saying that all time frames are tradable and they all make sense. But in the second part of this conversation, I said that in the end, you as a person, you as a trader, your personality, your preferences, your time availability typically is what will dictate the time frame that you want to use. So what would be a healthy starting point? Well, here is one way to think about it. Like, for example, when you look at this, look at the beginning of UFO band, where you have this, price action, where not much was banned. So, this not much was happening. If you think about it, there are only a few candles that took place before price took off. In other words, before you were able, thanks to the AutoUFO app, to identify there was a UFO, it took a few candles. Then you had to wait a few more candles for this market to come back to the UFO, and you would have taken this trade the way Tolly suggested, a few minutes earlier. So notice that planning a trade and executing a trade in both cases implies some waiting time. There is some time that will need to pass before that UFO forms, and then there will be some time to pass before the price comes back to meet those on-field normally executed, right? So, if you were to think about minimum amount of time that would be needed for this to happen, set the trade, to set the time frame to be used. Think about it. In this case, we got 1, 2, and 3 of those candles in. Okay, and then if I zoom in precisely, 1 and 2 and 3 back, and with that little wick came back and came inside this green band. Okay, so really you would have taken a trade right here. That would be a trade that you could have taken a second trade, where very beautiful trade. But forget about the one that just happened. Just think about the one that took the least amount of waiting time. It would be this one here. How many bars it took? It took 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. It's the minimum amount of time it takes for a market to come back and give you a tradable entry. 4 bars. So let's say you're a person who tells me, you know what? I got time to every 4 hours. So every 4 hours, I got time to look at the market. So what time frame would I suggest you to trade? Well, the 60 minutes. Why? Because every candle is an hour, isn't it? And you need a minimum of, based on what we said, 4 candles, the tool to give you a tradable entry. So will be the one you will want to use, because given lifestyle, how busy you are as a person, in this assumption, we are assuming that you have time to look at the market. The other day, I was suggesting to members, and what this in the session 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was London Trader actually. I was suggesting the 4-hour time frame because he was quite busy as a person. So if you use the 4-hour time frame, and we concluded that you would have a minimum amount of waiting time for candles. Well, 4 times 4 hours, that's shot of 8 hours. Be planning trades properly and miss none or very few, as long as you are looking at the market every 16 hours, if you are using the 4-hour time frame. Is that making sense? Because we concluded 4 candles times 4 hours, that's 16 hours. What if you use the 5-minute time frame? Well, if you use the 5-minute time frame, it means that you should be able to look at the markets every 20 minutes. And obviously you cannot look at the markets every 20 minutes, 24 hours a day, but at least that during the time of the day at which you trade, you would be able to look at the markets every 20 minutes. So that would make the 5-minute time frame to be a valid time frame for you to use. Okay, so that's the first thought I would suggest that you guys have when it comes to the time frames. Okay, so I'm coming back to this, and there is more to discuss on the stream. So totally fresh, high quality zone, level on level. Okay, so here are some of the conditions, and what I like very much here is that it's clear in my mind when I read your comment, your mind. You're looking for darker UFOs. What you're calling fresh would be a dark green or dark red. High quality zones, okay, and then UFOs or of packets or stacks of unfilled orders very close to each other, and this obviously increases your probability. Okay, so you said, and definitely it looks like this could be put in place in the form of rules, which is the key and the reason. I was sharing with you when it comes to the timeframes. Wait a minute here. I am missing one comment here. So, okay, so let me copy that I have here. So this is from Mark. Mark says, I am now of the opinion that when a trading time frames, I can still keep my risk to less than 2% of my trading account. This is a very good comment as well, because one of the comments I was putting on is, what's your availability? This was comments. Your comment is that the higher the time frame, the wider the UFOs, where the smaller the time frame, the narrower the UFOs. And you know, if you think about the top part of the UFO, well, in this case, we just had a new red UFO just formed. So this has changed. And good job, by the way, totally, by taking that 50% at 1-to-1, because this made your trade profitable, even though in the end it didn't reach the higher UFO here. So good job doing that. But let me change market to something else. Let's look at gold, for example, just so we got green and red on the screen. So that way I can make an additional comment to the post. So let me take a look at the 10-year, for example. Okay. I'll use a different from here so we can see green and red. Here we go. So we got green and red, okay? Even though, you know, the bonds are going up very strongly, and 60 minutes from now, actually 40 minutes from now, those UFOs will be gone, okay? And by the way, this is a question we received in emails quite often as well, that, you know, how come sometimes the chart shows the red UFO, but price is trading above, okay? And it's because the AutoUFOs app updates the UFOs every new candle. So while the prior candle is still trading, you will still see what the UFOs were. So in this case, we have an example of failed UFOs, and it still shows the UFOs. And the reason why is because you're using a 60-minute time frame, and it's currently 46 on top of the hours, so we still got 14 minutes to go for the next hour, and therefore it will still take 14 minutes for those red UFOs to go away from our chart. Okay, we could certainly make this to be updated tick by tick, but if we make it updated tick by tick, it has created a lot of complaints among users, because, you know, it's like as a trader, you like to see the trades that work, but you also like to see the trades that failed, isn't it? So if just by one tick the UFOs go away, and maybe you walked away from the computer, you come back, it's like now the chart does not look the same anymore, and sometimes you can get confused as a trader. So some of our users complain about that, and that's why we changed the way it's plotted to updating UFOs after the candle closes when the new candle begins. Okay, so that's why you would sometimes see something like this. Okay, but let me try to find a better example. So what about the euro? And here we go. So with the euro, let's look at the 4-hour time frame, for example, because we have green and red. Here we go. So that's a good one. So we have green and red. So we can talk about both the long and the short side in this particular example. But again, so Mark was making this comment. He was saying the time frame also needs to be compatible with my 2% risk rule. The 2% risk rule is also a very, very common rule that traders around the world would use, which suggests that you never want to risk more than 2% of your account per trade. Okay, so this is, again, you can read this in many trading books around the world. It's a very common rule. It doesn't mean you have to risk 2%, but most traders around the world will never surpass 2% per trade. Okay, so now what's the issue? Well, take a look at the euro here. So if I look at the euro and I was to look at, you know, let's look at this green UFO, for example, right? And I was to measure the distance from the top of this green circle to the bottom of the green circle, and I have this blue line, and I was to add a label with the net change to see how many pips is that, or even percent, how many pips or how much percent is that? Well, notice how here it says is 0.32% and it's 36 pips. But what if I had changed that to the 5-minute time frame? Well, if I change that to the 5-minute time frame and I compare this, which is my 36 pips, with the high of a UFO in this time frame, well, I guess it's visually speaking, it's very clear. If I was to add the same label, the price change and percent change, well, now I got 14%, which is 15 pips. So in other words, the 4-hour time frame provided kind of like double the risk than the 5-minute time frame in this particular case. And it's not always like that, but it will almost always be like that. The lower the time frame normally will produce less risk. Less risk meaning the UFOs are less wide, they are narrower. Now, of course, the risk in the end is dictated by the position size. So if you have 15 pips of risk, like the 5-minute time frame, but you were to use double the size, you buy double the amount of the currency, well, then you would have the same risk compared to trading the 4-hour time frame, which has double the risk. But if you were half of the size, risk is the so assuming the size, because in the end, position size assuming the same size, normally the time frame have a this amount of risk. Trades will maybe your funds, the amount of money on your funds, those funds are the ones that you should trade. Maybe you would like to trade the 4-hour time frame, but you cannot afford that because that would be too much risk. You would surpass 2% risk per trade if your account was to be limited in size. So again, you need to put those two variables together if you wish. First of all, what is it that you would like to do based on your personality and your availability for time? And remember, earlier we talked about you need a minimum of 4 candles to have a tradable entry. So think about those, how much it takes for 4 candles to be produced, how long it takes, I should say, how long it takes in time. But you also need to take a look at the depth of those UFOs, how high those circles are, because that is the risk. And depending on your account size, you may be forced to trade certain timeframes if you have limited funds. Okay? So now you will know what your ideal timeframe to trade. And from there, you could look at it from two angles. You could say, okay, I'm going to pretend the 15-minute time frame is the time frame I should trade. Okay, so let's say that's me. And given my case, given my account, given my preferences, given my availability for time, so my life as a trader is going to trade. That's the case. Now the next question is, and I would like to see a little collaboration there from your side, guys. So everybody participate, and we're here to learn. So please don't be shy with those answers. So the next question would be, okay, so if I concluded with all of these that my time frame should be 15 minutes, should I only use 15 minutes and plan my trade based on those UFOs? So right now we are about to enter the green UFO. So just buy using the green UFO and set my rival red UFO as my target, and that's it. Should I do that, or should I look at more time frames? Okay, so what would you guys suggest there? Would you suggest more time frames or only one time frames? Because the classical schools of thought, when you look at market analysis and so on, they suggest to either look at 3 time frames or 5 time frames. Those are the classical suggestions out there in the market. So what would you suggest to do? What would be your preference there? Okay, guys. So I'm just looking at your answers. Got it. So, well, look, this is kind of like everything in life, right? So if you were to look at one time frame only, really, the AutoUFOs are doing their job, and I'm not going to say it's going to be wrong. Actually, as you know from prior sessions that we have done together, you can even activate, I just clicked in the wrong place. You can even activate the stats of your UFO tool. And if you make it true, it tells you the stats are 67%. And in this case, for example, you would be using this green UFO to take profits where the red UFO is, and that's going to be, like 5-1, or visually speaking, I would say maybe 6-1 or something like that. Well, then, you know what? Probably you could just use this time frame and that's it. And you don't need to make your life too complicated. You could use one time frame and that's it. You could do that. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. Now the question is, what if you would want to add a little more statistics in your favor? Well, you could certainly add more time frames. Okay, you could certainly add more time frame. But if you were to look at other time frames, what should you do? Should you look at higher time frames or lower time frames? Earlier I was asking you, should you look at the Should you look at the higher time frames first and then look at the lower time frames, or should you look at the lower time frame first and then look at the higher time frames? Okay, so what should you do? Well, again, every decision in life got pros and cons. If you look at the higher time frames first, you kind of get a better understanding of where you are at in those higher time frames, and maybe you can be a little more purposeful when looking at the lower time frames. But at the same time, you may also spend more time planning your trades, because you look at the higher time frame, it looks like you may have something, and then when you look at the lower time frame, you realize you have nothing. So you keep switching time frames and you keep wasting a lot of your time until you find a trade. So that could be the disadvantage. Okay, so again, it has a lot to do with your personality. If you are a very perfectionist person, typically you will want to look at the higher time frames first. Okay, if you are less perfectionist and you give more priority to minimizing the use of your time, probably you will start looking at the lower time frames. So there is no right or wrong. Okay, but I would like to give you a different way to think about this compared to the classical ways that you find out there in the market. If you've been watching videos on YouTube on how people trade, if you've been reading books about market analysis, you would normally see that the majority of analysts in the world, they do a top-down approach. They start with a higher time frame, they go down, 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 they use 3 or 5 time frames until they get to the lower time frame. That's what they do. Okay, and I would like to illustrate doing the opposite. Okay, doing the opposite. Instead of going from the higher to the lower, what about we start with the lower? Okay, because in your scanning process, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to start with the lower first, right? If you are now scanning for, okay, so let's, what am I doing? Whole universe. I am scanning currency pairs, and with the scan criteria is that it's greater than the 34. So what does that mean? It means that so if I was to run a scan, okay, looking for 7%, it's going to be a second. The moment I go to scan, and now I click sell, look at the time frame using the time frame. So I'm looking at change it to I'm doing the scan for the time frame I'm going to use, and that's so I'm looking at those averages in the 15-minute time frame. So again, rescanning this thing, 37% is going to be done in a sec. Here we go. So now it says, for example, Swiss franc, Japanese yen. It's going to load it, okay? And notice that here is very simple. This thing is now turning. It doesn't look clear yet on the scanning process that we just did, but I don't have green UFOs. I don't have green UFOs. If I was looking at it, I would have wasted my time because I don't have the green UFOs. You look at the euro, it's taking a long. I guess my internet connection is a little slow. The euro Australian dollar in an uptrend, and I do have green UFOs. So now I would be okay. But now the question is, this thing is in an uptrend. Room it has to go, because if I zoom out, right, red UFO in this time frame. Okay, I mean, I could certainly load more candles. You probably remember from prior sessions that I am working with 1,597 bars on my charts. Load more bars on my charts. Okay, I got one. You can certainly load more to. But another thing, that's when other time frames come into play. Look at the 60-minute time frame. Look at the 60-minute time frame. Look at what I have. So if I'm gonna buy using that 15-minute FO, let me dark green. Okay, so it's easier for you to taking. When it gets to 160, this thing is likely to receive back to the 15-minute time frame, and I this green UFO, the moment this goes back down to the green UFO where I got my two light blue lines, well, it seems that it would make a lot of sense to buy there because there is plenty of room between this green UFO and the green. Now, notice how the green that I have above would represent nothing in from. Maybe you will want to travel through 3 to 5 times from 15 to 60, and maybe is good enough, and you stop there 3 times. That price has traded above, but so it is there. Okay, so I'm switching to. I'll be patient just a second, guys. It's gonna show up. We'll got that red UFO that we saw. So let me delete that to speed up the process. Oh, sorry, not the 15, to the 60-minute time frame, and now we are in the red UFO. Okay, we are in the red UFO. So again, if this trade was being planned at a time where this market is entering the 15-minute time frame UFO, you should be taking profit or likely to continue. Well, in this case, it's not reverse, at least for a while. Why? Because there was a red UFO in the 60-minute time frame that you don't see in the 15-minute time frame. So maybe another way to think about your time frame, not to be rigid, but think about time frames like to identify. Another example of what I'm talking about here. So for example, let's move the British pound. Well, the British pound with the Australian there is going to be about the same. So let's look at the British pound against the yen. So if I look at the British pound against the yen, okay, and it needs to load. Here we go. Well, in this case, it's about to begin the uptrend, but hasn't yet, so we don't have green. So you New Zealand dollar. We have the British pound UFO down here. In one hand, you would say, okay, if the price of that currency ever reaches this green UFO, and to do that, okay, well, in one hand, great, but then where my threats come into place. So we just process, right? In the 60, the next thread is up here, and then you go for the 240, and in the 240, the next thread is all the way there. So thread is 186.72, right? So if I was to go back to the 15-minute time frame, where this currency now just started recently, and that the new has the with treasury creating a little delay when loading charts. So let me go back to the 15-minute time frame. So what do we have? Well, if I was to shrink, I have my blue line, or the 60-minute time frame, but even though the 10-minute time frame, you for at this level. So in the identify threats, because the worst threat was actually located. When I mean worse, I mean the nearest threat was actually located in the same time frame, in this case 50 minutes. Okay, so it would not have produced any. Times it will not, but the beauty is, you know, okay, let's say a green UFO had formed here at this level. Well, yeah, you still got room to here. That's fine. Now, let's say, should you take the trade? As okay, so again, threat identification could be one way to think about multiple time frame analysis. It comes from, you know, maybe you just think about it. Again, let's say you are planning a trade on the British pound against US dollar. So first of all, in my mini trading plan here, I am looking for a market in an uptrend, with which, you know, this market, it kind of beginning an uptrend, but not yet. So it's not clearly an uptrend. So I'm going to skip it. What if I look at the British pound, Swiss franc? Is take a look based on the scan that we perform. Yes, but I also need green UFOs, because if I don't have green UFOs, I don't have a trade, and I can also look for downtrend too. You know what? Let's do this, because I haven't done it. So maybe it's going to be a better illustration for you. I would come back to my operator. Instead of greater or equal, I would just look at lesser of equal. On the scan. Now this is going to, so it's 40, just a sec, and I'm going to have my list of currencies here. Okay, so for example, the US dollar, Singapore dollar. So let's take a look at this currency. So I'm loading the chart. Based on the mathematical calculation of the moving average. I'm just gonna go for the next one. A downtrend, and I have the red UFO. And UFO. Well, my next thread is right here. Okay, but is this the nearest thread? Okay, is this the nearest thread? So let's look at the 60-minute time frame. In the 60-minute time frame, the nearest thread is further away. No problem. What about the 240-minute time frame? If I look at the 240-minute time frame, actually, you know, there's no threat. Okay, there is no green. Okay, so in this case, look would not have produced any benefit. It would, sometimes it would not. Okay, so that's why I personally prefer to start with a smaller time frame to save myself a little bit of time, because sometimes I trade FO. So for example, this one, US dollar Swiss franc. We have two red FO. This is what now, if I were short using those red UFO, this is where I should take profits. But what if I look at the 60-minute time? Or if I look at the 60, look at that. You guys see that? Now the 60-minute time frame, I thread a little better. What about the 4-hour time frame? It's telling me no thread. So what is in the 60 minutes, in the 15? Yes, some coming back to the 15. The stop, as we discussed in prior, and the profits would be taken around this 99.24. Okay. Suggestion would be to keep it very simple, not to go very complicated with it. Look for a trade and then look for threads. That would be the idea. Okay, so homework for you guys for the next week, because we're going to be concluding this session in just a few minutes from now. Homework for you guys for the next week, to our next session. I'll be sending an email with dates, because obviously next is week. There was many slow days with the holidays, isn't it? But for you guys, it would be to decide on your timeframes, okay? And deciding on your timeframes mean to look at this little rule, which is you need a minimum of 4 candles to have a tradable entry. So based on your preferences and the amount of time you have available to trade, what's the time frame you should use? Do a little research to make sure that your account size can afford to trade that time frame. If not, you need to go for a lower time frame. And once you identify the time frame, in my case, I selected 15 minutes, then define which are the 2 additional time frames you would like to check to identify threats. Okay, that would be the homework. And again, this session is recorded, so you can go back later on and re-listen to the homework and re-listen to the session. But again, I'll say it one more time quickly. Define the time frame you want to use based on your preferences, availability for time, and account size. In my case, it was 15-minute time frame. It doesn't need to be that one time frame. Then define which ones are the other 2 time frames. Check for threats, to check threats, okay, to identify threats. Okay, and it would be great if you could do that homework and get this written in a piece of paper next to your keyboard. So starting next session, when it tools and concepts and you know things to be combined with AutoUFOs because basically we are building a trading plan together, guys. So that's a pretty important task. Okay, guys, very important task. And by doing that, you would then be fine. Is that making sense, everybody? Okay, so that's the plan for the next week. And before we go, I have another suggestion I'm going to show on stream with a TY age 19 approaching a monthly UFO. Age 19 approaching a monthly UFO. Okay. Here we go. Located at or the size of Saturn. I see your point. Yeah, I see that. Curious to see where that UFO would be instead of 124 in the adjusted chart. Actually nearer in this time frame. Yeah, interesting. With symbol suggests 42% of trades working with the unadjusted symbol. The UFO suggest I would much more interested in utilizing this adjusted symbol where we're using like 14 days to expiration for us to accumulate contracts, historical contracts, to build this continuous chart. Okay, powerful it seems. Okay, but yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Totally 100%. It's been good to spend thinking about house and Ellen and all. Of course, the yeah, I see. It seems that you guys have had a little bit of problem with the sound. Okay, I see that. I'll take a look at what happened, and hopefully next time it's gonna be better. But anyway, guys, you can always watch the recording. I believe that in the recording the sound should be okay because of the buffering effect. The recording should be better than the original video. So you guys should be okay in case there have been an internet issue either on my side or your side while that was happening. Okay. But anyway, guys, again, nice spending time with you guys. We'll continue working on this next week. Please keep sending your emails so we could produce sessions that are more and more customized to you. And enjoy your UFOs, my friends, and talk to you soon, okay? So see you next week. Bye-bye. Good job. Take care, guys.